And I have really exciting news because Off2Class has just released a new page on the website that I'm going to show you now. This page is called Teaching Tools, and on this page we have the lesson library, a spreadsheet with all of the topics of lessons. When it says single skills lessons, we're talking about business lessons, IELTS lessons, conversation lessons, lessons that aren't in the step-by-step curriculum. So we have that, we have the vocabulary list from the curriculum, and we have the lesson objectives and can-do statements from the step-by-step curriculum. I know a lot of people have been asking for this. I'm not going to go in detail about this page in this video because within the next week, I think Chris Rush is going to do that and give a bit more information. But because this is something that a lot of people asked about on the survey, I thought I would mention it now. With this document, you can do things like create a library of lesson titles for your students. You can have an overview of for yourself of the curriculum. You can use it to write objectives for your students or for your classes. So it's very multi-purpose. You can use it to do games with vocabulary, things like that. So I'm sure people are excited. I've had some replies. Claire, I love you for doing this. Yeah, I thought so. So that's new out today, and I'm really excited about it. I know that a lot of you will be as well, and Chris is going to talk a bit more detail later within the week, kind of ideas of how you can use it, instructions. Everything you open will open as a Google Doc, and to edit it, you need to download it onto your own computer or make a copy. But like I said, I'm not going to go onto it beyond that, or we will be here all day because it is really exciting. So that was the first thing that a lot of people said in the survey. Now, when people speak about the Cambridge exams, preparing for the Cambridge exams, that curriculum document, which goes in the SEFRA levels, A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, those are in line with the Cambridge exams, and the curriculum will help prepare you for Cambridge exams. Alongside the vocabulary lists, you can use that to cross-reference with the vocabulary lists from the Cambridge exams. We don't have lessons that help you prepare for the exam format. So that's kind of an additional thing that you would need to do with Cambridge students. But you can do that alongside the curriculum, and the curriculum is probably the best place bit for Cambridge exams. So hopefully that document will help because we had a couple of questions about Cambridge. Okay, so now we're going to go on to homework. Let me open the homework page. Okay, manage. So I'm going to open first of all my student. My student's name is fake student. This is not a real student. But what I want to show you here is a couple of things. The first is assigning homework multiple times. Can you assign homework multiple times? Yes, you can. And I have a few examples here of lessons that have had different types of homework. So, can you find the lesson that has had no homework assigned? That will be this one. And we know it hasn't had homework assigned because, first of all, there's no star or tick box here like there are in the others. And secondly, because we have this plus button, which means assign homework. So if you've never assigned homework for a lesson, but you have enrolled the student in the lesson, that lesson will appear in this list, and you can assign homework from this list. And maybe that's how you've been assigning homework. However, once somebody has been assigned the homework once, that plus button disappears. And we have one of these other symbols. So we have homework that hasn't been started, homework that has been submitted but not marked, and homework that has been submitted and marked, and you've clicked reviewed so that they can see your feedback on it. And what we also have here is two lessons where I've assigned the homework multiple times. So if you assign homework multiple times, you'll see this little clock button, and then you can kind of see the different assignments of homework. So first I'm going to show you how to assign the homework for a second time. So if you've already assigned the homework, and I'm going to do this one, the reason being, I don't think it's a good idea to assign homework if they haven't started or submitted it yet. So I'm not going to reassign day at the office. But this one, for example, they have completed the homework and I want them to do it again. The way to assign it again is just launch the lesson, enroll the student in the lesson. The student doesn't have to be there, the student can be offline. Immediately close the lesson and assign it again. You can add your due date if you want to. And then it disappears. Great. So let's go back to the students page, and if we refresh that, we'll see that that one has now moved to the top of the list, and we have an empty star and we have the clock. So if we click on the clock, we can see the previous homework, September 27th, and we can see the one that we did today, March 8th. The good news is that you can still view both of them. So if you want to view the answers from September, you can look at it here. Ooh, slight delay, but there we go. You have fake students' answers and the answer key. And then you can switch to the more modern one if you want, current version. Now this probably won't work because they haven't started it yet. So we have to wait for them to start it before we can look at that. But if we look at a different example, this one for example, where we've got multiple attempts, we can switch between the different attempts quite easily. And you do that up here on the left, archived versions. Archived versions. Now, if you, a tip I would say, because this is sometimes where people end up with too many homeworks assigned, is you should only assign the homework once. Don't assign it again until they've submitted it, because the student will can then end up with multiple homework assignments that they haven't completed. Maybe they've done question 1 on one of them, question 2 on the other one. And you can delete homework assignments, but you can only delete the most recent one. So if you end up with multiple ones, with some of them not being complete, it might be a bit confusing. So you might prefer to make sure that they've submitted the homework and make sure to only submit homework one at a time. Okay. Can't see the symbols. Oh, of course, because my face is on top of it. All right. Sorry about that. So here are the symbols. Again, you can see that's the empty star, not submitted. That's the full tick, which means it's been not only submitted, but also completed. And then that is the clock, which we click on, and then we can see the different buttons. Sorry about that. I have to move my face so you can see behind me. And that was the plus that I said when you want to submit homework for the first time. So that's when we know that somebody hasn't been assigned the homework at all. Okay, so can you assign homework multiple times? Yes, you can. Now, what if your student you've assigned them the homework and they haven't submitted it? You can't mark it because they haven't submitted it. This is when we use the login as your student tool. If you haven't used this, then I would spend some time exploring this because it's really interesting to see what the student can see. And by doing this, you can submit the homework for them if they forgot to submit it, or if you've got a bit too many assignments and you need to submit some to just have one active one, you can do that too. But what we also have here is leaning towards the questions about self-study. So if you come into here, this is what the student sees when they log into Off2Class. If you have a live lesson, they can click Join Lesson. But if you don't, then they can't click that, but they can click all these other things. And if they scroll down, they can see recent lessons and summaries. And this is in order of the one that you've done most recently. You can see I've launched quite a few today. But here they can click on it and they can review all of the lesson sides between classes. And I think this is something that maybe you didn't know that they could do that, or maybe you did know, but your student doesn't know. So if your student doesn't know, you can share your screen in class and show them how to find this, because it's really beneficial for them that they can study between classes. This is like part of what you offer as an English teacher, that not only is it lesson time, but they have all of these resources to see between classes. They can go through them, the notes, they can see it again. They can open the Canvas as well. And If your student doesn't know how to do that, then you can just share your screen in class and show them how to open it, or ask them to share their screen and show them the way for self-study. Some people in the survey asked for, some people in the survey asked about kind of the flipped classroom, and that is how you would arrange a flipped classroom. So you can enroll the student in a lesson, immediately close it without assigning homework. It will then appear in their self-study list. So you can say, hey, I want you to look at Day at the Office before the next lesson. Go through it and bring your questions, or do these activities, or do this activity on the canvas. Hey, Sarah's routine. This is Sarah. She's quite glam. And then you can go through that in the class. So you can do a flipped lesson format in that way. All you need to do is make sure the student knows where to find the lessons. Cool. Great. Okay. The next one then I was going to talk about. So we talked about accessing slides. Oh yeah, another suggestion that somebody had on the survey. Somebody suggested that they wanted to have voice recorders. If you're in the group, you probably saw that we did a video about voice recorders a few weeks ago, but if you weren't a member of the group then, or if you haven't seen that, this is available on homeworks on all of the speaking lessons. So the speaking lessons that are available to standard subscriptions, premium subscriptions, and a selection on the free account, they have speaking recorders. Here is a speaking lesson, S201, A Day at the Office. If I open this homework, I have to click allow so they can hear me. The first day is more vocabulary related, but on the second day we have this, just dropped my pen, that serves me right for fiddling with it. Okay, on the second day we have all of these questions where you can record and answer. Do you think Sarah works very hard compared to yourself? Bit of a topical question for my students. Well, they mean Sarah in the lesson. So they record this and then you can listen to it. And what's quite cool about this is that's then saved on their account. Just like the student can look through previous lesson summaries, they can look through previous homeworks as well, which means in 2 months, you and they can look back through the homework and listen to their speaking that they did 2 months ago and say, hey, you got better. So that's quite nice as well. So we do have speaking recorders on all of the speaking homeworks and the IELTS speaking homeworks. Yeah, so I hope that's good, as well as the test, you know, on the assessment test, there's a speaking recorder. Okay, the other thing, we've talked about self-study then. I want to show you how to log out. So we're logged in as the student at the moment. Oh yeah, that's worth saying. This is another button that they can review their lesson summary from. They can click there, slight delay, but that opens the lesson summary the same way that the other button did. Let me close the homework and finish later. If you're logged in as your student, which is what I'm doing now, you can then click Leave User to go back to the teacher view. Not reviewed. Okay, then we go back to now we're on the teacher view again. Great, okay, let's have a check. We've had a couple of questions. Do speaking recorders work for Mac users? I have a student who says she can't record audio here, but her mic always works for other things. Yeah, it should work for Mac users, so I don't know why that's particularly happening to her. Usually, if a student has a problem, the first step is to log in as the student, see if it works for you. So using the login as your student feature and checking that everything's okay. Then check what browser the student is using and ask them to try to access the page using an incognito or private browser, because that means that none of their settings will affect Off2Class. If it works on an incognito or private browser, then they might need to clear their cache, I think it's pronounced, or cache, I don't know, C-A-C-H-E, or their cookies, because it might be that they've got something enabled that is stopping the website from working. An example of this is sometimes if students have automatic translation add-ons to their browser, then that can kind of jumble things up. So they need to disable that when they're using Off2Class. So that's an example of when you think oh, like you've got a plugin or an add-on that is kind of interfering here. And obviously the internet connection needs to be slightly stable, but it shouldn't really be a problem. You could also ask them to maybe try on their phone, but it should work on a Mac. Cool. Jill says, those resources that you listed a few minutes ago, are they only available on the paid subscription? I don't see them on the free plan. The teacher tools are available for everybody. They're just on the website. Let me show you how to find them. You come into the Off2Class website. So you're not logged in. Don't log into Off2Class. You're just on off2class.com. Resources. You can find, if you click Getting Started, you have tutorial videos that with Chris Rush that goes through everything. These are absolutely fantastic. And then if you click Teaching Tools, you get these tools. So that's how to find them. I'll put the link on the description of the video afterwards as well. Cool. All right, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is the canvas. So a lot of people, some people mentioned about how they would like to use a video at the beginning of their lessons as a kind of intro. So I thought I'd show how you can embed videos of your choice into the Canvas tool in case that's something you didn't know about. Here is my Canvas. I had this open at the beginning. Let me check my face isn't covering it. So here we have one of Chris's tutorial videos. I just started talking a hell bit. But you can take any video that you want from YouTube. This is just an example. You copy the link. So I've just put Control-C to copy it. And then you click Add YouTube Video, enter the link. You already added that video. Thank you. Well, then it embeds it like this. And then you can move this around. If you click the Select Objects tool, you can put it in different orders. I added some instructions here, video 1, arrows. You can click and move that around as well. So if you have videos that you like to use, then you can put them into the Canvas. The Canvas is saved and attached to that lesson for every single student that uses that lesson. They will see the same Canvas, and that's true for the premium subscriptions. This is a nice thing to do because I think if you're thinking about using Off2Class with your students, what's nice is if you have kind of everything on Off2Class so that the student isn't dealing with a Google Doc with the video link plus the Off2Class login to find the lesson plus many other different things. If you use the Canvas to have the links or to have the videos or to have the additional resources, then it's more streamlined for the student and it helps them because they don't have as many different things to find and then they forget about one of the resources. So if you want to include videos, you can do that here and then you can click play in the Canvas or ask them to watch it before or after the lesson. So that's quite a nice thing. Cool. Bye Claire, have a nice day. That's sweet. Okay, so we've looked at the Canvas, and the final thing I want to look at is the classroom tools, which is just another thing that maybe like you weren't necessarily aware that you could do. We're in the lesson now. This is the lesson slides, and what you can do is right click here for one of the tools. So somebody in the survey said, I'd like to be able to look up words that are on the lessons, and I thought, fantastic, we can already do that. So if I click a word like lawyer, I can right click it and then I can or do audio, Google Translate, image search or dictionary. And then if you click dictionary, it comes up with the definition of the word. This is quite nice. And it shares it with the student. You could do the same for company, etc. So that already exists on the system. If you haven't used that, try that in your next class. The other thing is the drawing on the slides, and somebody asked this in the event details. Let me just sip some water so I don't get too croaky. You can draw with the pen, as you probably know, on the slides, but I think what some people don't know is if you click the pen, unclick the pen, I no longer have the pen highlighted, I can then click and drag, click on it here, rotate it, make it bigger, make it smaller. I actually find this and then I can delete it by pressing delete. I find this very useful when I try to underline something. Unclick the pen, if it goes a bit wobbly, I can rotate it. Or if I think, okay, I've underlined that, now I want to underline something else, click and move. Click and move. Yeah, and if you click the pen and you have drawing mode on, then your students should also be able to use the pen, but they might have to click on the pen themselves. Okay, so that's some of the tools. Obviously you can write. If you're finding that, that with the gap fills, when you're typing, it's pushing the text over, actually, instead of clicking on the slide, use the text box for the gap fills, as that doesn't affect the text. So here we could put a gap here. Can you think of a synonym for company? Type it into the box, and then we do that here. And those are some of the classroom tools, but I think particularly the clicking and dragging was something that we don't necessarily know about. Great. Oh, I clicked the wrong button. Opening something else. Okay. All right, the last thing, which I can't screen share for, but the last thing people asked about was Zoom. Getting Zoom, seeing yourself on Zoom, seeing somebody else on Zoom, seeing all the people. Just like, I think we said it before, but because Zoom is a kind of separate program, it is a separate program, it's a separate company. We don't have control over what Zoom does, and sometimes they change their settings, and sometimes it makes it easier, and sometimes it might make it seem a little bit more complicated. But one of the new settings is that you can pin your video, you pin your Zoom window so that it's always on top. And that kind of solves the problem that a lot of people had about, I don't know how to show myself on Zoom at the same time as the other people. And there's a section in guides that shows you how to do that, that somebody shared. Thank you so much for sharing that. That shows you how to do that on a PC, and you can also do it on a Mac. That can help you see all of the students at the same time. The other option is to just adjust the size of your browser window so you have all of the students on one side in a browser window and the lesson on the other side, and you have to adjust the size of the browser to do that. And that as well we've talked about in the Facebook group before. So to finish, what I'm going to do is just show you how to find those in the Facebook group. So here's the Facebook group here. You come to the top, if you're on a computer, we have about discussion. And if you click guides, then you'll be able to see all of the guides that people have made, videos, or maybe just threads. Sometimes these are just threads or images that people have shared that I've realized are really helpful for other people. So we put them into the guide section, tutorials, videos and stuff. And the other place to go is on topics. And if you go on topics, then you can click on things like, oh, I want to have a look at Zoom. And then it opens all of the conversations that have been tagged Zoom, and there's lots of information there as well. And this is it. Who was it who shared it? Anna. Thank you, Anna, who shows us how to keep it on top. Cool. Okay, so I'm just going to come back then and check if there are any questions. Robin, I've got a question from Robin. It would be cool to be able to do that for words you type on the canvas too. Is that possible? I'm not sure what you mean, but if you asked extra information about that, if there's anything we haven't mentioned or there's more ideas of the product that you want to change, then you can put that in the survey, and we'll be closing that soon. So please do the survey as quickly as possible. Yeah, if there's, I'll wait a couple of minutes, see if there's any more questions coming through, but otherwise, thanks so much for coming. And if you want further support, apart from posting in the Facebook group, If you're kind of new to Off2Class or you're just thinking about using it, then you can join one of our every weekly webinars. Every Monday we do a welcome webinar where you can, where Chris walks through how to launch a lesson and enroll a student, and shows the different features, a kind of introduction. But we also have a live chat alongside the video where we answer any questions that you have in the moment about that as well. So that happens every Monday, and I put the event in the group, in a Facebook group as well, but you have to click on a link and put in your email address to register, because then when the webinar is finished, you get an email sent to your inbox automatically of the recording of the webinar. So that's another way that we offer like kind of support. And the other way is obviously the tutorial videos that walk through a lot of this stuff. Cool, all right, thanks everybody for coming. I hope you have a great afternoon, and let us know if there's any other questions or FAQs you want us to cover in the group. Bye. Thanks for coming.